I'm joined by Harry Litman of the Talking Feds YouTube channel and the new Talking Feds Substack. Harry Litman, let's talk about what went down in New York. Judge Merchan made a big ruling, but kind of the writing was on the walls. Tell us about the ruling. What do we expect to happen next?
Sure. So, yeah, the writing was on the walls in the sense that the writing was on the wall in the sense that DA Alvin Bragg had already said, okay, do this. And this means first take care of Trump's motion to dismiss. And this is different, Ben, from what he's done before. This is going to be a broad-gauged one based on immunity. And he's going to say, I think it's pretty clear, a couple things. One, just showing up for a sentencing is too onerous for a sitting president to do. He's going to try to squeeze all he can out of the OLC opinion. There's a footnote kind of supporting it in the Supreme Court case saying that a sitting president can't be made to endure a criminal process. But, you know, the DA is going to say in return, Bragg, come on, this is a case that's completed. All he has to do is show up for sentencing. Court, you permitted Clinton versus Jones, a civil case that's got some, you got to show up for a deposition there or whatever. This is no worse. But I think we can expect Trump to make another argument, which is just in the abstract, the indignity or the kind of political leverage that having any sentence pronounced on him stay hovering while he's a president. That itself is going to be a violation of the Constitution for some reason. How can he deal with New York when he knows that they have this hovering over him? All right, that's going to be the motion. And he's got a pretty quick turnaround on it. The DA briefs it on the 2nd of December. Trump briefs it on the 2nd of December, and then the DA answers by the 9th. So there's time for him to decide it even before inauguration. But here's what happens. If he grants it, of course, the motion to dismiss, and, there's some indication, Ben, that he's kind of looking to get out from under this whole mess. But if he does, case over, the tailwinds against Bragg would just be too much at that point. I don't think he goes ahead and tries to salvage it. If he denies it, though, next thing that's going to happen is Trump's going to say, I want to appeal this all the way to the Supreme Court, potentially 3 levels. And while I do, don't sentence me. So that'd be, will Merchan say, okay, go at it. It might be 18 months and I'll sentence you after that. Then if it goes all the way and the Supreme Court affirms a denial of the dismissal, and that could be a little dicey. I think there's certainly a few votes to go Trump's way here. But if they deny it, now in late 25, now the sentence comes back. And now Merchan, who knows what will happen between now and then, how Trump will have ordered Bondi to sick him on Bragg. But anyway, now he can pronounce sentence. And if he does, and, we've talked about this before, but there's reason to think that the right thing to do would be some kind of short sentence. Then January 20th, 2029, hail to the chief. Here's a cell waiting for you in Rikers Island. Except that's the third question. If it comes to the point where Merchan is passing any sentence in 2026 or so, will he do something kind of really easy, little slap on the wrist like a fine, that would be another way of making the case kind of dry up and go away, because there's nothing really for Trump to protest about at that point. So that's the whole kind of political and legal mess that we now have. But it starts with a big motion to dismiss by Trump to be answered by the 9th of December on the grounds that somehow the immunity opinion makes it unconstitutional to have brought this case in the first place.
So, Harry, it's an interesting ruling in the sense that this is not being indefinitely stayed until 4 years from now. There was some suggestion that let's just revisit this and see where we are after the next 4 years. And then it's like there will be, for everybody wondering, to break down what you just said, there's going to be a decision on this motion to dismiss one way or another. It's going to happen in December. And then
First
that
part, yeah, by Merchan. Yeah.
by Merchan, the first part. That doesn't necessarily speak to the sentencing component, because then that could be this thing hanging over Trump's head throughout this term. But does that surprise you? You intimated that Merchan kind of just at this point would like to kind of extricate himself from this. You reading between the lines. What makes you think at this point? I mean, and I want to be clear, because some people are like, oh, that makes him super weak. And like he was a tough judge during all of the rulings. I mean, a fair judge, followed the law. But some people may be hearing you and going, oh, Merchan's scared. He wants out now. What how do you tie this all together, Harry?
Very fair point, because it's just as you say. I was at the trial. He was very solid. But he has blinked a little, and everyone is telling him these are unprecedented circumstances. The New York Times, Michael Cohen, the star witness, is basically saying the case should go away. All the other three will. So he's kind of alone in the storm here. And just that he delayed the sentencing, Ben, says to me, not necessarily in a craven way, you could call it a practical way. Let's see first what the courts will do with his substantive claims. And because if they dismiss the whole thing, there's nothing left for me to do. I would say that in contrast to the trial, we've had a couple junctures where you can really sort of perceive that he feels the pressure a bit. He's a solid judge, as you say. I don't think that would make him decide differently. Like, for example, I think the right answer, and the one he will come to on Trump's motion to dismiss, is it's not valid. They shouldn't dismiss the case. But, if tomorrow the whole thing vaporized, I don't think he'd be crying about it exactly. He's the lone guy out there. And even the DA has been a little bit equivocal and wussy, frankly. So, you can feel his isolation in a sense. But I agree. To the extent I suggested that he's just looking to cave anyway, anyhow, I did not mean to say that.
And so phase one, we get to rule on this motion to dismiss. Then the sentencing aspect would happen in phase two.
The main part of the sentencing aspect, though, is will he stay it? Will he sentence now, which he could, or will he wait till phase one plays out all the way up and down?
It'll be an interesting thing, though, to read this ruling, especially in the current context, because look, there was a lot of very compelling evidence, which ultimately a unanimous jury found that Donald Trump committed these very serious felonies. And for Justice Merchan to kind of recap that right now, deny it, which then goes on to, look, you have a felon in chief right now. And then this is going to be argued to the various appellate courts on this, as the sentencing is hanging over his head. It's a big deal. And I think that, sometimes we're kind of numb to this now, but we shouldn't just, I think, be numb to the fact that there's 34 felony counts. There was a guilty verdict that was issued, 34 separate counts. And now this plays out in the court. There's nothing that's happened. You cite the Jones v. Clinton case, which is a civil case, but that's kind of used as a, this is pre-presidential conduct here.
Right.
And
I think that's exactly right. And just to sort of encapsulate it, I would say the default goes to doing what the justice system does. Someone's been adjudged a felon 34 times, you pass sentence. He's got to come up with some supervening constitutional principle. Wouldn't seem too likely, but of course it didn't seem too likely till the Supreme Court got a hold of the case before. But I agree, there needs to be some really special reason, not simply the fact that he's been elected, to what is essentially completely overhaul or just displace the normal operation of the rule of law.
Harry Litman, thank you so much for that. The Talking Feds Substack is just crushing it right now. So everybody check that out. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel. Harry's where I go to get my legal news, and all of you should as well. It's how I learn about some of this stuff too. Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe.
Talk to you later.